think that we're gonna change gears and we're gonna talk about nutrition. And
awesome.
And I think it's even confusing, at least for us, like in terms of how much there is information out there, right?
Definitely.
So what I figured we can do is like, let's just talk about the basic nutrition, and then we can do one on supplements down the road. But we can talk about the basic things that you think everybody could benefit from.
Perfect.
Since you're an expert, since my man has written a book about this.
Perfect timing. My new book, The Paleo Project, has just come out. And yeah, I mean, the basis of this is really to get back to just eating more real food. I mean, if you want to really sum it up in the quickest way, you know, we got to get back to eating, you know, more healthy meats, more vegetables, more fats, things that we used to think that maybe weren't so good for us. People come in all the time and, you know, say they want to upgrade their health or improve their health, and they say to me, you know what, doc, I've stopped eating meat altogether. Mm-hmm. And these are some of the old myths that, you know, animal protein or too much animal fat might have been bad for you, but it's really the sources that you're looking at. So trying to get people to eat more real food is definitely sort of number one, and the idea is to really provide this foundation, right? Using that evolutionary approach, if you eat more real food, you're laying that framework and that foundation for your diet and what's best for you.
Now, I think paleo is very hot and trendy now, okay?
It's definitely in a lot of places.
Yeah, so why do you like it, or why do you think? I think for one thing, I know people get amazing results, so you can't deny that, you know, that.
I think the biggest thing with, one of the reasons why it's been so great, I mean, you know, if you look at the general population, we're up to the stats say 75% are in the overweight or obese category. Mm-hmm. So a low carb diet is a great way to lose weight, and the paleo diet just happens to be a fantastic way to eat and be satiated and eat healthily and have a low carb approach. So I think that's really been gangbusters for a lot of people, because it's a great way to not only lose weight, but you're actually improving a lot of health parameters, which is something that we kind of forget about. Things like blood pressure, blood sugars, cardiovascular parameters, all these things are improving as well. But the key, I think, is using that approach of finding what's right for you, because there's some real rigid definitions of what a paleo diet is. Right. And if that works for you, you know, like I say in my book, absolutely go and run with it. But for people who are kind of falling through the cracks, or think maybe it's a bit too tough for me, or maybe it is just a fad diet, this is where you want to get back to just slowly integrating more, you know, paleo type meals into your routine, right? You normally start with just breakfast as being kind of the first meal of the day, right? What's the typical breakfast your clients come in and
you know, I think a lot of people, they just eat stuff in a habitual way, not even thinking about it. And I think the speed of life is like way too fast. That people are not even paying attention to it. And I think just being able to prepare yourself for the day, I think, is very crucial.
And that's a big one, because the start of the day is such a big point, and that's where, just like you said, you get into these routines and these rhythms, and the first thing in the day is normally like some type of cereal, some type of toast, some type of muesli, some type of muffins. You know, it's mainly carbs, and more carbs in the morning. And that's, you know, for mental acuity and being sharp and focused, that may not be the best approach for a lot of people. So I think that's where we, right out of the gates, are getting into some trouble, right?
And you know what, I think the other thing that is very crucial is that, look, we are a complex biological system, right? So I don't think anything is a fad. If it's working for you, hey, that's all that matters, right? If it's like, I don't know why people feel like, you know what, they need to be able to just adapt to different things. I think experiment with this, and then to see how much it's going to change your physiology, your neurology, your immune system, and everything else. And I know a lot of times that when people actually, when they reintroduced, you know, good foods, then they have had amazing results, right? So
absolutely. I mean, I think that's just it, just kind of experimenting with it yourself. And it's always nice to see, you know, the research and all those things behind a type of diet. But you don't have to get as rigid with some of the rules. I think for some people, incorporating, you know, some oats every once in a while, some short grain brown rice, or, you know, some other things that may not be under the strict paleo rules, but, you know, if it works for you, if it allows you to kind of maintain that, you know, eating in line with kind of how we've evolved in our genetics, that's really going to help. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is just eliminating all the processed sugars, processed foods, and that's the nice thing about a paleo definition, is it just basically, you know, to really simplify it, it just tells you to eat more real food and don't eat processed stuff, right?
And a lot of it is based on ancestral health, and in terms of the way we evolved and what we were exposed to 5,000-10,000 years ago, right?
Absolutely. That's kind of the buzzword now, is this evolutionary medicine and evolutionary approach is kind of a take on paleo and ancestral. But effectively, I mean, we've evolved for so long, And what we often forget is that even the bacteria that's in our guts has also been evolving around the same time. So the different foods that we eat now, things like even GMOs are so prevalent. There's research coming out that shows that these GMOs actually disrupt the bacteria in our guts, right? So there's sort of no shortcuts. So getting back to eating more stuff that's just natural, grown, whole foods, things like that is is really the basis for most people. And that's why oftentimes when people come in, if they're not well or if they're even trying to lose weight, we say, well, have a couple eggs in the morning, some avocado, some vegetables. Right. And that sort of throws some people off, because some people say, listen, well, what about those cholesterol levels? So is that going to put me at risk? Or if you tell people to eat a cucumber for breakfast, I mean, that's out of left field too for some people, right? So.
Well, and I think maybe the other thing that we want to be able to do, especially with mobility, is like, look, question things. And I think to me is like a lot of times people also just become so focused on calories that they don't realize like, hey, we need good fats. You know what I mean? This is very crucial for us. And I'm going to tell you, there are certain myths and certain prevalences that exist in a culture that really stays with you for a long time. Yeah. And even for myself, I mean, like around the time that, when I was coming into it, right? It was like, well, who cares about what you're eating? As long as you're exercising, you're fine. Yeah. But then you realize, no, after you go over 30, you need to...
Food becomes more important.
Exactly.
Sure.
And to me,
I think... 40.
Yeah, you gotta really work harder. So I think to me, this is the other thing that happens is that we develop this cognitive biases, and then we sort of try to pick information that fits those belief system, right?
And that's just it. It's so tough to shift some people over, because the idea, the myth of the counting calories for weight loss. I mean, I never count calories with patients or clients who are trying to lose weight. Yeah. Ironically, the only time we count calories is when we're trying to add lean mass onto somebody, right, in terms of that energetic component. So that's where that breakdown of the proteins and the carbs and the fats is key. And again, it's always that shade of gray. Where does it fit for you? Because even though we talk about low carb, the more athletic you are, the leaner you are, we definitely need to get those carbohydrates in. And this is where sometimes, like you said, you can read some information, it sounds great, but if it's not geared towards your goals and your genetics and what you're trying to do, it's not going to help you. So it's always good to read as much as you can, be informed as much as you can, but I think there's always going to be those, like you said, there's good bits in those articles, but then there's going to be some areas that might lead you astray a little bit.
And I think the thing is like, I think the book is really amazing. I think everybody's going to benefit from the amount of useful information that is in it, right? And also just remember that we constantly are learning, right? And
for sure.
Especially from a brain perspective, this is a very, very old system, right? So there's a lot of different things that happens, right?
And I think that dovetails nicely with just this idea that, again, we thought saturated fats were bad for us or cholesterols were bad for us. And some of the things that we're going back to do now, like eating butter or grass-fed steaks and all these kind of things, this is what our grandparents were doing, right? And then we stopped doing it, and the science has come around to show us that, what they were doing back then was actually pretty good. So I find that to be a really interesting component. I think that's what's driving a lot of the movement, is the fact that the science now is matching up with a lot of those kind of ancestral things that people were doing. Bone broth soups, things like that is another one that's kind of becoming really popular now.
So do you have a favorite paleo dessert, a meal, a smoothie, anything that you like, or what do you think?
I've got a few paleo favorites, but one of them would definitely be, and this is one that I like to share because most people might not have tried it, which is yucca. Yucca is a long, tuberous root vegetable. It's kind of like a potato. Yeah. But if you cook it, you make some chips, you cook it in duck fat, which again might scare a lot of people off, but a very healthy type of animal fat for you. And it makes unbelievable yucca chips, great for after exercise or on the weekends, but fabulous. Try that one out.
Man, Dr. Bubbs, man, aka Gordon Ramsay, man, that is like,
wow. There you go. Check it out, paleo.
Where do I get duck fats? Just out of curiosity, like, where do I go? Do they sell it?
Yeah, if you go to local butchers and stuff, they'll have it. Check out paleoprojectbook.com, and we'll give you those recipes on there as well. Fantastic. You got to check it out.
All right, so this was good, and next time we get into...
So what are you going to do for your paleo breakfast? That's what the viewers want to find out. What's on tap for you?
I love my eggs, so I mean, I love those. And I got to tell you, this is one thing, and I don't know if you're going to judge me or not, but I love bread. Like, you have no idea, man. I really, like, there's something to be said about it. I'm trying to cut back, but yeah.
And that's the thing, it's all about, I mean, bread there's a reason why we all love it. I mean, it definitely tastes good. So it's all about moderation. you know, that kind of 80-20 rule for most of us out there. If we can do well from Monday to Friday, hey, if you want to go for Italian on Saturday night, go for it, enjoy, right? But just getting that Monday to Friday. So it's not Saturday yet. So tomorrow, I don't know, you might have to cut back on.
No, but it's funny how I even justify it to myself. I'm like, yeah, genetically, my people are used to this, man. This is part of like, you know, what I'm used to. But you know what though? I think the biggest thing is trying to be able to cut back. I think it has really helped myself as well. Like you need to be able to add something good in there, that you're not constantly stressed and you feel like, oh my God, I'm sacrificing so much, because that also runs a havoc on the system.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if you're really gonna like something that is difficult, don't sabotage yourself. Just like make small changes.
Yeah, small changes is key, moderate approach, and just let those positive
Yeah.
habits and feelings and sensations from the improvements build, right? Most of the time when people jump in 1000% for 2 weeks, on the back end of that,
Yeah.
they fall off the wagon pretty hard, so it's good to just
It's
dip your toe in to start with.
It's the biggest loser phenomenon. Everybody wants to do things dramatically and then they fall back, right? So it's just like, you know what, experiment, get the book.
Start with breakfast, check out the book, paleoprojectbook.com, and you'll be off and running in 2015.
All right, bye.